Constructing your life is about much more than just building a bank account. Each week, join real estate entrepreneur and mindset coach Austin Linney as he interviews guests who are constructing their dream lives and impacting the world around them on a daily basis. If you're an entrepreneur or wanting to start a business, or you just want to hear motivating stories of how others have overcome the odds, you are in the right place. And now for your host, Austin Linney.
Guys, welcome back to Construct Your Life. You'll know this guy next to me. The most watched episode, the first episode, my man, my brother from another mother, Omar Pinto. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing phenomenal. Thank you for this honor and this opportunity. I am pumped.
So guys, we're going to have a little bit of a different episode today. We put out some content. You're thinking, who's this idiot talking on the radio, on the podcast? And I realized that in order for you to buy in to what I do and why I love what I do, you have to hear me. You have to understand why this guy has anything to say. I've alluded to it a couple times in interviews, but not really touched on it. If you go back and listen to the amazing interview I did with Omar on his podcast, the Share podcast, you can get a context for it. But what we're going to do today, because that was almost, it was a year ago. So we're going to kind of dive into my life. And Omar has been kind enough to come on here and kind of like poke it a little farther, maybe get a little deeper. So thank you for coming on, and we'll just kind of get rolling.
All right, let's do this. I am excited. It's always an honor. It doesn't have wow. Okay. Hello. It doesn't happen often where I get the opportunity to be on someone else's podcast and interview them. Mm-hmm. Right. Because you really, here's the cool thing about what we're doing. Okay. Podcasting, I've been doing it for 5 years, which means that there's so many things that I have said that are out there and that are always going to be out there. Okay? And so that's the beauty of podcasting, is that you never know how this particular episode is going to impact someone else's life and other people's lives. So it's such a cool opportunity when you get to kind of take that role on somebody else's podcast. So I just wanted to thank you for that opportunity, Austin.
Thank you for being here. And guys, I want to put some sort of context around this. I'm not saying this to boast. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. I'm just sharing my story, and I'm getting out of my own head about it. It's extremely vulnerable and open. This is not easy, guys. I've thought about this for weeks. And I decided this week was a good time for me because there's some skeletons down there. So, my purpose to this is for you to connect with me. And I can't even tell you this week alone, I've got 7 or 8 messages from people talking about how great the podcast is. And, it really validates how much work I put in Chris and everybody and you and all the guests I've had on. So we'll kind of start from the beginning. I grew up my dad was a doctor when I was younger. We were coming up as I was growing, we kept getting bigger houses. My mother and father were from Southeast Texas. My dad had a bunch of brothers and sisters. They didn't have a ton of money, but they were happy. They worked outside. So my dad was building his dentist practice, we kept getting, what you would classify as more money, country clubs. And, eventually we settled in a house right before my parents got divorced. They built the house of their dreams. I lived across the street from NBA players. It was $1.4 million on the country club. Everything looks great on the surface. But I was a fucking asshole. I was a selfish victim who got handed everything and was mad at the world. And I didn't know why, because from elementary to middle school was very easy for me. I'm super smart. I have a photographic memory. I am dyslexic, which is rearing its head farther on in my life. But I just was ungrateful. I was a prick. We had a maid. I treated her like shit, now that I'm thinking about it. I'm just not a good person in my heart because for whatever reason, people didn't understand me, or like school was too easy, and I just got in trouble all the time. And I mean, all the time. I never studied for anything, and I made A's because I just memorized everything. So what started this whole journey for me is at 17, my parents, I remember it, we were at dinner at a restaurant. I think it was Papados. And I got in trouble for the millionth time. And my mom said, I think it's best if you leave the school you're in and get a fresh start. So this is junior year of high school. So imagine a 17-year-old. They talked about boarding school multiple times. It wound up not happening. So what happened was my mom said, well, I want to go to Fournette. I'm not a huge fan of this rich area. Let's do this for Austin, right? That was what I was under the impression that this was for me. So imagine going from, 4,000 kids in your school with BMWs to 100 in the middle of the country, and they all drove trucks and camo. And so it was, I still think to this moment, it was the greatest gift that was ever given to me, even though I might have not seen it at the time, because I am the ultimate salesman. I can wear cowboy boots and be in a duck field, or I can wear an Armani suit and walk in a country club. I can do it all. I'm a chameleon. So we move out there, and big change. I mean, very unhappy at first. Didn't have any friends. The girls liked me for sure because I was the city boy. And they were like, who's this kid from Sugar Land, Texas? But what happened was, through this process, my parents set me down like 8 months in, and said, we're getting a divorce. And then I think, well, hold on. What the fuck? You've never fought. I've never seen you fight. So obviously Austin Linney is the reason that you're getting divorced. I ruined this family. So that's the story. A lot of therapy, but that's the moment that had affected, kind of where we got together and kind of, so at 17 years old, not only am I doing the transition, I'm also saying, I broke my family apart. My dad doesn't want to come to my baseball games anymore. So this is what I'm living in. So I'll stop there. If you have any questions, that's kind of the genesis to the start of where I'm going to go from here.
Okay. No. Okay. No questions. Keep going. This is
good. So what happens is, senior year, I friends, still my best friends to this day. We're drinking, we're playing sports, nothing crazy. You're living out in the country. These guys taught me how to drink. Those boys in the city don't know shit. All right. So they taught me how to drink. And then through this problem, I started getting angry. Like, how dare you, Dad? Like, and then my dad gets remarried like 10 months in, and then has 2 stepkids with, not her, but she already had kids. And, I'm like thinking to myself, like, what the fuck? Like, I was your first son. Like, and I'm just like beating him up, like on like he's the enemy. Like, mom's the winner, dad sucks balls. My brother went with him. So my brother was 6 years younger than me. We don't have a relationship. We're working on it. But shit rolled downhill. I'm mad at them. I'm mad at him, so on and so on. So, senior year, I graduate. We're doing some stupid shit, partying in fields, the normal stuff, nothing fucking crazy. You're in the middle of nowhere. Nobody cares. So I don't think anything of it. We're drinking everything. So I go off to Blinn. I was 18. I was working at a restaurant, by the way. So I'm already working, like, I'm not like just fucking around, but I was working at a restaurant, and I go to Blinn and I get an apartment. So an 18-year-old with apartment 3 hours away from home with a gas card, and everything's paid for. I am living that shit up. If it rained like a drop, I didn't go to school. I'm like, nah, dude, you can't go to school today. It's raining. So, long story short, I get roughed up with this. I get in with this crowd, these guys that started introducing me to ecstasy, cocaine, those things, So at the time I was just drinking, nothing big deal. So I'm partying with these guys. And they had a roommate that they fucking hated. This guy was a prick, and he's still a prick. I hate his guts still, but that's neither here nor there. But we wound up switching rooms. Like, he takes my apartment because they didn't want to be around him anymore. And I like these guys. So like, I'm moving in there. Well, I'm in there for like one day, and we're having a party with a bunch of girls. And the guy that moved out, I didn't know that he had pulled a shotgun on these guys 2 nights before in the apartment. And so he comes to the apartment with 3 other dudes and some guns. And long story short, well, not long story short, but basically they bust into the apartment. We're all fucked up. And there's 3 dudes, there's 3 of them, and there's some girls there. Well, I'm at the back by the porch. And so we wound up getting them outside, right? And they put the guns away, and like, but I had a Louisville Slugger, right? And what happened was, and by the way, this was told to me because I don't remember, but what happened was, and I remember because what my grandfather told me.
Jesus.
He pushed a girl, like one of the guys pushed a girl, and I fucking laid 3 dudes out. Like I laid them the fuck out, like all of them.
With a bat?
No, with my fucking fist. Like 2 of them or something like that. Like I hit 2 of the guys that pushed the girl. Like it was, I was like, fuck you. Like, what are you doing here? Well, at that time, as I'm walking back to the apartment, the other dude, the old roommate, spears me in the back, like lays me out and takes my baseball bat. That's a Louisville wooden slugger and proceeds to beat me I was unconscious. So they broke every bone on the right side of my face. My eyelid was down to here. And then I have, if I shaved, I have a hole in my lip this big. So every bone on the right side of my face was broken. So as I come out of consciousness, I'm wearing a yellow Abercrombie sweater, right? It's funny. I've never told this story to anybody.
Dude, I can't believe I haven't heard this story.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny what you put. It's funny what you put away. So I have a yellow Abercrombie sweater on, right? And it's red. The motherfucker is red. So the cops come and he goes, "What do you want me to do? Do you want me to call an ambulance?" I said, "Of course it's me, an investor from the beginning. How much is it going to be?" He says $500. I said, "No, I'm good." So the guys drove me to the hospital and dropped me off. Well, my mom gets a phone call. She thinks I'm drunk driving. So she's in Southeast Texas with my brother, and this is 2 a.m. So she drives through the night, walks. I hear her before she even gets to the room that I'm in. "What the fuck is your problem, you motherfucker? Are you drunk driving? I didn't raise you this way." And then she turns the corner and sees me. And she's like, "Holy shit." But here's what's funny. And this is why I love my mom, who's crazy as fuck, trained by the CIA. I think 5'3" scares the shit out of me. So they switched my charts. They switched my charts with somebody else in there who had got in a drunk driving accident because of Xanax. So she's reading the chart and she's like, "I told you, motherfucker, like you did this shit." And then the nurse goes, ma'am, it's not your son's chart." So all this is going on, right? And at the moment, I've never seen myself in the mirror. So I'm like, "Bro, I'm going back to school tomorrow. Like, what the fuck why are you even here?" And she goes, "Why don't you shuffle your ass to the bathroom?" Then you look at yourself in the mirror and the entire right side of your face is black and this big, and your eyelids down to here, and you've got stitches everywhere. And so needless to say, I remember bits and pieces of this because I was asleep for like 3 days straight. But I remember her driving in the car back to Southeast Texas and calling the parents of the kid that did this. It was like, "I'm going to drive to Houston, knock on your door and beat the fuck out of your kid. Like, I'm going to hurt his," like she was going to town. And so long story short, I go back to Beaumont, and for 3 days, I remember like my uncle coming, like bits and pieces, but I don't remember much. So I kind of come out of it. My dad's a doctor, thank God. I had, emergency surgery, replaced my eye orbital. I still have a broken sinus canal. But what people don't tell you about something like that happens to you is the mental anguish, right? I was making good grades in school. I was happy where I was. And, your life is stopped and you're mad at them. But when I talked to the doctor, he said, like, you're lucky you're German. He's like, because anybody else that would have put in a wheelchair for sure. So you're hard-headed. And then my grandfather, I remember this, he's since passed away, of course, but my great grandfather said, so son, next time there's like more dudes than you are, like maybe just walk away. Like it's not so important. And so, I thought that was funny. He's 80 years old telling me that. But if you want to unpack any of that crazy story, because I don't think I've ever shared that story with anybody. So,
dude, like it is when you talk about PTSD and post-traumatic stress disorder, when you talk about a traumatic experience, so incredibly powerful, where it's interesting because there's a lot of stories that you talk about. Like there's these stories that come up, like one big story, like the what we worked on was this belief system that I was the reason that my parents got a divorce. Meanwhile, this horrific traumatic event never surfaces until we're in the middle of a podcast episode. And I just go, no, just keep going. Right. And all of a sudden here, it just kind of, it makes its way to the surface. Mm-hmm. And so there was so much.
And I'm going to elaborate. No, I'm going to elaborate on that on the backside of this, because you're alluding to it. Okay. This is why we're so perfect.
Okay. All right. Well, then why don't you just take it from here? Because that's where I'm going.
So it's funny now that I look back and reflect, because I tried to start college again 2 times over. Mm-hmm. And as I'm saying this, I'm having a breakthrough as we're saying this. The promises I started breaking to myself was I wasn't ready to go back to school. I had never dealt with it. The legal battle was still going on. I had to pay for my own insurance. We needed the money. I needed the fucking cash to pay for the hospital bills and all that stuff. So I tried to go back to school thinking it's the right thing to do at Lamar and Beaumont. I'm miserable. And, I guess I haven't given that story as much weight as it means to me. And it's like you these things happen and you think that they don't impact you the way they do. But it really looks at something like that along with my parents' divorce. And it's like, that's really the foundation for like the destruction that happened for the next 10 years. And because you sweep it under the rug, because you cover it with Band-Aids or alcohol or drugs or whatever the fuck you want to cover, Netflix, you're not addressing the fact that in that moment you were a victim, regardless of what role you played into it. But you can choose for it to be a crutch, or you can choose for it to be a liftoff point to be better. And I tried college again, and I'm lying to myself because I thought it's what my parents wanted me to do. I thought that's what I should have done. And all along, what I wanted to do was just run away from that moment, that moment that happened that I don't realize. I had to leave my apartment. I had to leave my friends. I had to leave college where I was doing, I just started. I was a freshman. And, as I look back, the failures at college, I think, played a real role into my drug addiction. And, you start making money in the restaurant business and you think that money is going to solve the problem because you don't have it. So I'm making money. I'm really good at my job. So people look up to me, and you don't look back and realize these moments that played a role, small or bigger and different, how much they run everything, same as your story with glasses when you were young, So I'll just leave the floor for a minute so I can collect myself.
Yeah, no, really. It's funny because I've the story changes. The more I tell my story, the more it changes, the more power those particular stories lose. And in the course of sharing, in the course of being vulnerable, allowing someone else to hold space for you, allowing someone else to intuitively guide you through this, there's a healing that happens as you tell the story. I'm speaking for myself here, like you said about the glasses. Like, it's funny because I remember after sharing that and thinking to myself, I might not share this again because I don't think this is it. I don't think this is it. I think for whatever reason, I've chosen to hold on to this story because the other one's more painful. And there's this idea.
That's powerful.
I saw a penny drop. And that's all I kept thinking as you were sharing. I go, this story that I tell myself, this story that I talk about, and I hold this blame for my parents, is not the real story. The real story is, I am so angry. I'm so disappointed. I'm so frustrated. I'm so whatever. These are just branch statements, right? So it allows your brain to kind of connect with this in this moment. But there is this idea that I have these emotions that are inside of me that are so powerful, so strong, attached to a story that's so vulnerable, that I'd much rather tell this other story, because this one does not make me feel like the other one.
That's a great point. And, we'll take it from there. I grew up, call it what you want. I grew up in the restaurant business. I mean, I did. Like, that was where I learned. And there's drugs, a lot of drugs in the restaurant business. It's just part of the game. So I'll tell the other story that's even before the big drug story. I was in Austin. I was young. I was working at Cheddar's. I was drinking a bunch. And when I mean a bunch, like, we would shut the mother effer down after a 12-hour day. They would even keep the bar open for us 2 hours after, even though they weren't supposed to. So I'm drinking a bunch. I'm in North Austin, Round Rock, and I live near UT, which is probably 15, 20 minutes. This was 15 years ago. Long story short, don't remember this much either, but I remember the bits and pieces. And I'm about to share something I've never shared, and it's super awkward. I'm even thinking about it, freaking out. So apparently this is what happened. I drove home. I got about 10 minutes from the bar, so not even close to home. And I fell asleep at the wheel. I drove my car through a front yard, tore down a mailbox, freaked out as the guy jumped out of his house. And apparently my dumbass threw him my ID. I don't know why. And then I run. So I run. I've got $300 in my pocket. I just worked a double. I get picked up from a guy. I get flagged down a dude. I said, "Hey, where you need to go?" He said, "I need to go." What I didn't tell, and I've never shared this. This is so awkward and so ridiculous for me to share it. I shit on myself when I wrecked. I just remembered. But wait, it gets way worse. It gets way worse. So then I get in this stranger's car with shit on me, and he's a big black dude, and he's like, "Bro, you smell like shit." And I go, "Yeah, that's because I shit on myself."
Best story ever.
Wait, it gets so much better. Wait for it. So he takes me home. When I get out of the car, he punches me in the face and steals my $300. So he punches me in the face.
Dude.
Just wait, bro. It gets so much better. Steals my $300. So I get in my apartment, right? No money, shit on myself. I drop all my clothes in the shower, put water on them. I go to bed. So I wake up the next morning. I have a double the next day, full day of work. I thought it was a dream, bro. Like, I was like, like my truck's in the parking lot. No big deal. Like, why is my fucking clothes in the shower? Like, I don't, like, whatever. I got to go to work. Well, then the typical, you go, well, maybe it wasn't a dream. So I, when you pull the blinds down, you like look outside for your truck in the parking lot and you're like, oh,
that can't be good. Yeah,
that can't be good. Where's my money? Oh, my money's gone. Fuck. That really did happen. Son of a bitch. Okay. All right. Regroup time. I call somebody. I'm like, hey, I need you to work my morning shift. I'm not going to be able to make it in. I'll tell you later. Well, at that time, I get a call from the police.
Exactly. I was waiting for that.
Have my car at the impound. So I'm like, fucking son of a bitch. So I got to go down to the police station and explain this shit. So I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? What to say? So I told the dude, I am 20 at the time. And I'm like, what do I tell this damn detective? So I told him that I fell asleep at the wheel and freaked out and left. Right. So buy it, don't buy it, whatever. He said, okay, if that's the story you're sticking with, like, we can't prove it. It is what it is. He goes, your car's over here. You can get it. No ticket. This is what he said. Okay. So I have to like track down my car in South Austin. I wound up working that night, of course, because that's what I do. But sure enough, 3 years later, ticket shows up. Evading the scene of an accident, all this stuff. And so I had to pay like $4,000, but thank God, got out of a DUI. Not happy about it, not proud of it. I just want to share it. So if anybody else can share the story, because that shit is wild. That I can't wait to take that clip and post it.
Dude. Post the one where it says, I shit myself.
Dude, that you want to talk about open and vulnerable? You want to talk about open and vulnerable, dude?
What about the guy? What about the guy's house,
dude? Hey, what are you gonna do, bro?
You don't even know what happened to the guy's house, do you?
No,
it's like I just walked away.
Here's what's great: that guy is still telling that fucking story. He's like,
I'm sure.
He's at a barbecue. He's like, man, this fucking son of a bitch. He threw me his ID. He's like, he's still telling the story.
You're lucky he didn't sue your ass.
Yeah,
He had your ID. Dude, okay.
So alcohol, it's a hell of a drug.
Alcohol is a hell of a drug.
So in this time, we're transitioning into cocaine, which you're extremely familiar with from your past.
Very much.
It's a fun drug. It's really great, especially back in then, especially with somebody that had ADD, especially with somebody that plays the victim. Cocaine's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not glorifying it, but that's what you're thinking in the moment when you're doing it. I feel fucking supercharged. So we start.
Yeah, that lasts for that lasts for the first, few times you do it. Yeah. And then you spend the rest of the time chasing that shit. That's just to clarify.
Well,
let's clarify the cocaine.
No, you chase the cocaine until you move to meth. and that's when your shit gets real. Because cocaine's like kindergarten. All right. So I'm working at Cheddar's in Beaumont, and come to find out, after a couple years, I wound up finding out I have the two biggest drug dealers in Southeast Texas that work in my restaurant. Like, no bullshit. So they would sell, I can't even tell you how much drugs would move hands just between the staff. So how it starts is, hey, there's this fucking drug. It's like cocaine. But if you do this one little line, you'll be up for 24 hours and you can work. And it's crazy. And it's great. And then if you do a line like, I don't know, an inch long, you'll be up for like 2 days. And I'm like, hey, this is fucking great. Let's do this shit. So what would happen is we would work a double on Friday. We would get out at 10. We'd go to the bar. By the way, our managers were partying with us. That's a whole nother story.
Oh, come on. Like, yeah. That's a no-brainer.
No, but
that's
here,
a no-brainer. I worked at a restaurant, dude.
I'll tell you this quick story.
Everybody parties.
No, but I'll tell you this quick story. I used to party with them till 9 a.m. drinking whiskey with them and they would leave to go to work, and I'd have to go in an hour later, and I would call and go, "Hey, I'm not gonna be able to make it in today." I go, "What the fuck are you gonna do? I was just drinking whiskey with you like an hour ago." He's like, "Yeah, fair enough." So yeah, but so you start doing it on Friday, right? I'm just gonna do it on Friday. Not a big deal. I'm gonna work. I'm just gonna do this. Well, Friday turned into Saturday. Saturday turned into Sunday. And then I moved in to an apartment with this guy who was the biggest drug dealer in Southeast Texas. And he was a hurt human being, now that I'm looking back on it. We used to do meth, and he used to play Yellow Ledbetter from Pearl Jam. I mean, it was the thing. But dude, you used to come into our apartment on a Tuesday, and we would be cleaning that motherfucker from top to end because we're just strung out. We're just cleaning, we're cleaning. And so really, I can think of a couple stories here and there that really make you reflect. And as I'm saying it, it's one of the ones that have stuck with me more than anything. And I'm sure anybody that will listen to this on your podcast or your group or anybody that's been through this would understand this. Fast forward to a birthday. It's my birthday. I'm supposed to hang out with my parents. I haven't slept all night, obviously. You know what? Actually, I remember it was fucking Christmas Day. Excuse that. It was Christmas Day. I'm sitting at my desk watching NBA on my computer, supposed to go see my parents, thinking of the lie I can come up with because I'm so strung out. We're smoking it out of light bulbs. We're throwing parties. Everything you could think of. I never stuck a needle in myself. I won't do it. It's not my thing, but I love this shit because it was the first time in my life that it made me feel normal. I felt laser focused. I felt like the ADD stopped. I felt like these people cared about me. They wanted to hear what I had to say, and everybody else around me didn't. My parents, my mom, they didn't care about what I thought. At least that's what I told myself. So it really is one of the low points. One of the low points when you're sitting at your desk and you're hating yourself, which I'm sure you've had that moment. And you can't even go see your family because you're so strung out on Christmas Day, right? These are the moments that you look back on and you go, whoa, like shit is off the rails. And that wasn't the low point. There's two more. What happened was, I want to say it was around my birthday. I think it was around my birthday. I stayed up for 10 days straight. Not only did I stay up for 10 days straight, I took 40 Xanax that week too to try to go to bed. So you're riding this wave of I'm up, I'm down, I'm up, I'm down. And I started seeing rabbits everywhere. Like rabbits running across the road everywhere, but they obviously weren't there. So I lost 20 to 25 pounds. I didn't eat for 7 days. And my ex-girlfriend saw me. And my pants were falling off my waist, 3 sizes too big. And she goes, you fucking look like shit. You look horrible. And I stopped that day. I quit that day. I went back to my apartment. I packed up all my fucking shit. And I moved to Austin the next day. Because I realized that I had to remove myself from that environment because I was not strong enough at the time to do it. So I did what I needed to do to remove myself from that toxic environment. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that still wasn't the low point. Was the closet was the low point. So long story short, I go to Austin for a little bit. I get sober. I clean up a little bit. I'm still drinking, but the drugs have stopped. I can't even smell, cocaine or meth right at this point. It's really makes me sick. I moved back to my mom's house. I'm 23, 24, I think. I was working at the time, but I was making good money. I didn't have much bills, but I was just treating it like a hotel, treating her like shit, coming and going as I please. And I came home and she had my shit out on the step, and she said, before this, my dad had cut me off completely as well. No insurance, no car. So I picked up my bag. I had no idea where I was going to go. And I cried for like 3 fucking hours. And I have a friend, one of my oldest friends, who is literally like my older brother. Like that's how I think of him. His name's Terry Folsom. I love him to death. He picked me up, and he said, second time he's picked me up, by the way. He picked me up in Austin the first time when I wrecked my car and I had to move back the first time. So he's been there for me many a times. And he said, okay, pussy, like, get your shit together. Like, we're going to figure it out. Like, I don't know what we're going to do, but we're going to figure it out. So basically what happened was we drove to my buddy's brother's house, my best friend, my best man at my wedding. And we're drinking margaritas. And Terry says, listen, I got a guy, which wound up being my girlfriend at the time's dad, who was a construction guy. He said, listen, he'll give you a job. It's no bullshit. Like, you need to fucking show up. You need to work. None of this fucking crap. He said, he'll pick you up at 5 a.m. He'll drop you off at 6 p.m. That's how it works. You're laying tile and you're laying brick in the middle of July. Figure it out. So I didn't have a car. I didn't have anything. I had clothes, and that's it. So at that time, my buddy's brother, which I still need to call him and thank him, he said, listen, bro, there's 3 guys living in this house here. We know where for you to live. You have no fucking money. He said, but I've got this closet underneath the stairs. So I threw down a single mattress and I slept in, it's probably 50 square feet, in the closet. I slept in the closet for 3 or 4 months. I lived off of $40 a month, ham sandwiches and ramen noodles. And I worked about 60 hours a week, maybe 70, give or take. I didn't do shit. I saved up enough money to buy my grandma's old Explorer so I could get a car, so I could go get my bartending job back, so I could start making real money again and get an apartment and so on and so on. So, for me, as I sit here today at 37, 38, however the fuck old I am, that for me was dude, what happened? Like, how did we get here? You were living across the street from NBA players on a country club, and now you're in a 50 square foot closet eating ham sandwiches when you had an expense account at a country club.
The real question is, what compelled you to take that offer? You were in the restaurant business. You were making money. Your buddy picks you up. You're fucking mangled dog shit. Your dad's cut you off. Your mom just kicked you out. Okay. And he says, you can live in my closet. You're going to have a construction job, laying tile, laying brick. You're going to be picked up at 5, dropped off at 6. So you're going to make $40 a month? That can't be right.
I ate on $40 a month. I kept my expenses low. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, you kept yourself. Okay.
I didn't have the restaurant job at this time. I had nothing.
Oh, no. I understand that. Yeah. I understand that. What were you making a month at the construction gig?
I think I was making probably like maybe $500, $600 a week, maybe something like that. I mean, maybe 400 something. So it started making some good money. Yeah.
Couple grand a month. Okay. You're not paying rent.
No.
You're stockpiling as much cash as you can to try and get your car back.
No, I didn't have a car.
I mean, trying to buy the Explorer.
To save some money. God love my grandma, who's the best person in the world, maybe pay for it still.
Okay. All right. So this is what the listeners, right, need to hear. And this is anyone who's struggling with drug addiction, right? How important is it, or what, let's not even say is it, was it for you to have every bridge burnt before you could actually surrender?
So 2 things. This is going to be great. And I want to share this because I hope your listeners listen to this too, because I know where they come from. My mom told me this years later. She said, Austin, I cried every day for hours having to make this decision. But I realized that the only way for you to truly be set free was to hit rock bottom. And if I continue to enable you, and as I look back, it's the greatest. I was a stubborn motherfucker. It was the greatest gift that she's ever given me to be able to go out and impact. And I know that for my parents, that was the hardest thing. Somebody like me, they call me the rhino for a reason. Somebody that is bullheaded as I am, it's the only way. It's the only way. There's no other way that would have happened. When you are literally staring at the back of a wall, the true definition of ass wall. I mean, talk about pride, ego, everything. And the story doesn't end here. That's what's crazy, because I'm so fucking stubborn. I become an alcoholic. But what I'm saying is, it's funny. I interviewed a kid yesterday. He's 25. He's a fucking rock star. And you know what's crazy? He had to sleep in a closet for 6 months too. And I'm like, there are certain people that dollar that you give somebody, that $20 that you give them to get high or get booze, and you know it's the wrong thing to do, you're not helping them. You're not. I mean, how many times have you told that to your audience?
I can't even tell you how many times I've told someone.
You got to hold the motherfucking line, baby.
The best thing you can do is give them absolutely nothing.
Nothing. And you're giving
absolutely.
them, and you have to understand that you have to live in gratitude. No, you're giving them a gift. You're giving them their life back. It's so easy.
The gift of desperation is just that. It is a gift. When I have nowhere else to turn, I'm forced to go within.
If you truly seek ultimate happiness and ultimate freedom and lightness, you must surrender. It's the only option. In life, universe, the corona, whatever the fuck you want to call it, will teach you the motherfucking lessons. You just have to be open and seeking to understand them.
So let's talk about the continuum here, because here's what happens. And another great gift is listening to your mother tell you how she cried every night making that decision. Listening to my father when I had made amends and I got sober and he could finally have a conversation with me, not the jackrabbit, when he could finally have a conversation with me. And he says, the only way I got through it was I just had to imagine that you were already dead, that you were already gone. And my only solace was to focus on you as a child. Because that's what brought me joy, was thinking about my happy little boy. So those beautiful, horrific, heartbreaking messages that we get from our parents, you don't know how much you hurt somebody until you know how much you hurt somebody. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of catalysts here. Okay. So you're finally, you're sleeping in the closet, you save the money, you buy the Explorer, you get back into the game.
I'm making $1,400 to $1,700 a week.
Okay. So now you're back to making fucking crazy money, dope fiend money. Mm-hmm. And
I'm still from 17 telling myself that I'm not good enough. I'm a victim. I'm the reason my parents got divorced. So really whatever you want to call it is the root of a lot of the aggression. There's really no better word for it. I was nice, but I was an aggressive, nice asshole.
Right. But when you think about the anger, and the bitterness and the rage, mm-hmm. Who was that really directed towards?
Myself. Because and I'm still working on it, I don't think that I am good enough. And it wasn't until I get around people that see something in me that I don't see in myself. And all they're doing is waiting for me to see it in myself. Because what people need to understand is that in order to truly be the best version of yourself, It doesn't start anywhere else but you. It's simple. If you are the best version of yourself, if you are in a crisis to get to the next best version of yourself every time, every week, every day, then that will permeate in every part of your life. And I was loud. I was aggressive. I thought because I worked 100 hours a week that I was better than everybody else. But what I was really doing is by being loud and aggressive and the loudest one in the room, I'm hiding the insecurities that I am broken like a fucking inside. And it's really easy. The people that I respect the most are the ones who are quiet. Like, because they're just sitting there knowing that they've got it figured out. Like they're so comfortable in who they are. And so for me, there's this internal struggle where you got to be loud, you got to be aggressive, you got to come in like a Mack truck because if you don't, maybe they'll pick apart, maybe they'll see you, like maybe they'll see who you really are.
There's definitely, because we all have some of that, but something just keeps coming into my thoughts here. So I'm wondering how much you can attribute all this behavior to this need to punish yourself.
I knew this was going to get a coaching call on my podcast. So then the question is, Coach, what am I punishing myself for?
That is the question. When I think about the rhino, and I'm loud, and I am in your face, and I'm aggressive. I'm looking for something. I'm looking to be seen. And it's the part of me that wants to be seen that is that very aggressive, loud, rhino, strong, impervious.
From my parents.
I'm looking for a fight.
All the time. I mean, I was for sure. All the time. Anything, just set me off, please. Because then I can show you that I'm more aggressive and I'll go harder than you. Because that's easy, right? It's not easy to sit with yourself. It's not easy to look at yourself in the mirror. And there's so many distractions out there. It's really easy to not be focused on the true issues. And I think that's where I lived for many, many, many years. And I'm not perfect now. I mean, I have a massively addictive personality. That's why I love Ironman training. But I think I'd rather turn my focus towards eating right and Ironman than the other stuff.
Okay, so look, there's so much here. There's so much here, right? But we have to start kind of getting into the comeback. Okay, so
let me finish it off, and then we'll go to the comeback. All right. So fast forward. Basically, I drank. I probably started at like 10 a.m., maybe 10:30. I would drink probably a bottle of vodka almost every 2 days, give or take, maybe a little more. Whiskey. I romanticize alcohol. I love it. I still make drinks for people. It's what I did for 20 years. I was a bartender. I was a functioning alcoholic. Let's just call it what it was. I got everything done I needed to do, but I drank a bunch. And I remember kind of the breaking point for me was two things happened at the same time. I finally got a GM job, and I thought like these kids are gonna listen to me. It's the worst restaurant. I mean, I'm passionate. They're gonna work for me. And I had 10 days in a row of two people calling out. I was working 120 hours a week, and the restaurant was failing. I was punching shit. I was sleeping in my office. I was crying every day, picking kids up so they would come to work. I was drinking. So this was 45 minutes away. I was drinking on the way home, waking up, doing it again. And I broke down, and I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't lie to myself. And in that moment, in that exact time, my dad told me that a reason they got divorced. And that was like, holy shit. It wasn't me. It was something to do with them. And I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, like the story that I told myself for 20 years, the fuel, the chip on my shoulder, everything is a fucking farce. And that's when I went on your podcast. And that's when I'm like, what does it all mean? Right. And that day I drank a lot and I was broken. And then that next morning I meditated for like the first time ever. And that was like the break. It was like and I'm not saying I stopped drinking. That's not what I'm saying. But it was kind of like it was like, okay, wait, this man held on to this burden for 20 years while I beat the shit out of him. Like, if that's not ultimate, unwavering love, I don't know what it is. Same deal with your father, right? It's really.
Now, wait a minute. You fast forward in that story. Because it's
you're not gonna let me get away with it. You're not gonna let me get away with it.
Because the listeners are like, they're like, fuck, rushed them. All right, so we're gonna back up for a minute, right? Because this is why you're here. Super important.
Yeah, this is why you're here.
This is super important. This is super important because this is why you've been punishing yourself your whole life. Okay, you've been abusing yourself in one way or another, and the only way that you are able to soothe yourself from this despising yourself, hating yourself, blaming yourself, it's my fault, so I work my ass off, or I take whatever job I need to, or I defend people and pick fights or whatever the case may be, and there's a part of me that's also very angry with my father at the same time. So I take the blame. You take the blame for the divorce, but you also are fucking pissed off at your dad because he moved on. He abandoned us. He moved on. He gets married. He's got these 2 kids, right? And what about us, right? So there is this belief system that he is the reason why the divorce. You caused it, but he left. And so that's where all your anger is. And then your dad calls you. And actually, it was a different story. I don't even know if you want to talk about it.
No, fucking do it. No, fucking do it. Dude, I'm open. I don't give a shit. Guys, he's right. I fast forwarded, like I cleaned it up real quick. I was a prick. I was a prick again. Omar read the text. So, it wasn't as quick.
Read the text. Did you just send me a text?
No, I said you read the text that I sent to him. But like,
oh yeah.
But like, yeah. I was still the victim. Like I hadn't got over it. It wasn't until your podcast, like 4 days later, that I had the epiphany. And to be honest with you, and just so everybody knows it doesn't happen like that, I actually didn't release it for 3 months later. I remember the day. It was March 2nd at 8:30 in the morning. I was in Canyon Lake, Texas. I released it. I cried, and it took me 3 months to really forgive myself and move on from that. So when somebody gives you the truth, it doesn't mean that it happens like that, guys. It just, you can sit with it. That's the whole deal. Sit with it, lean in, do the work, hire a coach. Thank God for Omar, so on and so on, because you're not understanding where the emotions are coming from, and you're lashing out because it's so much easier to not look at yourself.
How has that moment, because there's so many pivotal moments, not just in your life, but in everybody's lives. But this is a huge moment of relief. Like, as there's so many times in our lives where the pivot is pain. And in this particular case, the pivot is the realization that I can give myself a break, that it wasn't my fault, and there's some relief. How has that impacted your life, and in which direction did it send you because of it?
Like a rocket ship, straight towards lightness. I mean, it's just it's really odd. I don't think it's a coincidence that 6 months after I stopped drinking, like I don't think it's a coincidence that I feel good. I don't think it's a coincidence that, and the thing is people need to understand something. It's not that it's been roses. I started a business last year. I lost 25 grand. I got laid off a month ago. It's not been fucking roses, but what it has been is it's allowed me to bet on myself because I'm owning what I did in it. I loaned up to it. And the easiest way I can describe it, and I have it still saved, it felt like 50 pounds of ball peen, the ball and chains like on your feet, like removed themselves. That's really, I remember it like it was yesterday. I was outside of work. I had a conversation with my dad and I took ownership for my part, which I had never done. And fast forward to 2 weeks ago, I had another experience where this is big. I don't even know why it came. I've not been a fan of my stepmom. We've been fighting for 20 years, give or take. Call it what you want, call it selfish, call it childish, whatever the hell. We just don't see eye to eye. And I've kind of been a prick, would be an understatement. I haven't talked to her in like 10 years. I wrote her a text and I apologized. And I said that, regardless of how I view you, regardless of who you are as a person, you don't deserve this anger directed. It's not even directed at you. It's directed at somebody else, but you're an easy target because, in my eyes, you took my father away from me when really my bad attitude took my father away from me.
Wow. Ownership.
Extreme.
And I'm pretty sure that extreme ownership came because now I'm remembering the full story. Your father became transparent about the real reason why they got divorced that neither your father or your mother told you about. You chose to create your own story. You chose to take ownership for it, and you chose to blame your father for it. And it turns out it wasn't your dad's fault. Your mom had something to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And when that landed on you, it changed everything.
Change everything, because there are things that happen in our life. There are moments in time, and then there's the story that we create. And it's so much easier to get caught up in the story because the story, it almost lifts us up because, oh, look at me, my drama, look how cool my story is, right? Poor pitiful victim, me. And it's so easy to go there because the people that you really need to surround yourself will tell you to fuck off. Like, dude, I refuse to have negativity or excuses around me right now. I cannot handle it because the victim mentality is so ingrained in American society. Because, you see somebody, who I get inspired by? Like people like Diego Corza, who is from Peru and and he's a millionaire because he rode a bike because he couldn't get a license. And you're bitching because you're sitting at home watching Netflix and everything's handed to you. Like, because it's so easy to go there. And then it's so easy to call your friend and go, see, look what he did to me. Look what he did to me. Yeah, I know, but what did you do? Like, when every marriage falls apart or every relationship with a parent or child, stop yourself and go, what the fuck did I do? What ownership did I have in this moment? And it wasn't until I took extreme ownership of who I was and what I played in that role, regardless of the story I told myself. It wasn't until that I was set free. I look back and I think the thing that really hits home with me is 20 years. I mean, 20 fucking years. And I implore everybody, and if you get anything out of this podcast, ask yourself what story you've been telling yourself. Is it real, or did you make it up? It's a simple question. I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just saying, what layers did you add on it? What are you taking ownership of your story? Oh, you got laid off. Big fucking deal. Go get another job. Do something different.
Well, we're in the middle of a pandemic. That's a tough one.
1,000%. That's a tough one. But I got laid off.
Let's just clear that.
That's it. No, 100%. But I got laid off, and I
understand.
started a podcast. I'm learning Spanish. So like all I'm saying, that was insensitive. I apologize. But what I'm saying is
no, and it's just bringing light.
That was a little insensitive. All I'm saying is life's a choice. That's all I'm saying. So
that is true.
Good, bad, or indifferent. Either you're riding high or you're riding low. You could still be happy in between. I've met many millionaires who are miserable. I've met many people who make 30 grand a year who are happy as hell. So it's a choice.
There's a message. Especially during this time, there's a message for everyone, because there's people that are financially prepared for this. And so they're able to work on themselves during this time, and they're able to either work on their relationships or recognize, what changes they need to make in their lives, whatever the situation may be. There's some of us that, yes, because of the financial situation, this is an opportunity in history where everyone has to slow down and look inside. And then for people who are struggling economically, there's a message in there as well. It's not about being cold or heartless, and they can't just go out and look for a job. They're still forced to go inside. They're still forced to say, where did I go wrong? What can I do differently? What changes can I make in my life? What normal do I not want to go back to? Who do I need to reach out to right now because I don't have a choice?
Yeah.
And what potential positives can come from me risking my own vulnerability in this time because I have to, because I don't have a choice, because I have a family, because I have to provide. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to have to do something. And I think that is where within the greatest amount of adversity comes the greatest opportunities. And we know that just because of your story.
Yeah. And I think the thing that I'm kind of harping on right now is I think what everybody's realizing is that how much their identity is wrapped up in their, as my buddy said yesterday on a podcast, their paycheck or their job. It's not really who you are. And so what I'm going to talk about here for the next couple of minutes, because I want to respect everybody's time and we'll get out of here, is how you rebuild this mind in what's happened. You hire people like Omar. You get surrounded in masterminds with people that are better than you, that have been there, done that. I interviewed 2 multimillionaires on Monday. They lost everything, way worse than I did. And they built it all back. But I'll give you an insight to me, and I'm a little different. And I'll describe it. This is real. This is not a joke. This happened. I'm being 100% honest. After I figured out about the dad thing, and for about 7 months, from 3 a.m., 2 a.m., 12 o'clock at night, 6 in the morning, whatever you want to call it, Gary V was in my ears. And I mean, literally, this dude, I listened to all of his content, and I don't need to listen to it all now, but for that moment in time, he was telling me like, dude, stop playing the victim, go get a job, figure it out. And then so I'm rebuilding myself as I'm cycling. You're stacking small wins. You're starting a business. I'm still in the fucking restaurant business. I want to get out so bad. I wanted to get out for like 5 years. I'm 36. I still am in this fucking restaurant business I hate. Literally I'm rebuilding myself, stop drinking for like 26 days, then started drinking again, didn't like it, and stopped drinking again, but, kind of stopped for the last time for now. I hope for the rest, but there's no absolutes in life, but rebuilding the mind, getting around people that are smarter, better, have accomplished things, so on, getting coaching, getting help, so on and so on. I didn't do 12 steps. It's just me. To be honest with you, I feel like a year and 5 months in, I'm doing the 12 steps right now. It's really odd. I just feel like I'm in that place right now. true story. And I would love for you to describe it because you have a better context around kind of what Kaizen did for me, and to believe in something so great that I needed that rocket ship to rip me out of this comfortable life, because I was the top dog at the restaurant. Nobody questioned me. I made decent money, nothing crazy, but I was wildly unhappy working for somebody else. And I just couldn't break the cycle to get out of the restaurant business because the comfort was so easy because you're getting a paycheck and it's safe. But then I got an opportunity to start a business, and it didn't go well, but it was the catalyst to start a new life, to start a new chapter. And I want to share a story because Chris asked me to share it because it meant something to him, and I haven't shared it with many people. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. So I started the business, and we decided to part ways. I haven't even told you this story. We decided to part ways, and I lost some good money, 25 grand. And for about 2 days, I just beat myself up. I'm like, you tried, you finally got out of the restaurant business, you quit your job, you burned the fucking boats, and you failed. You fucking failed, you piece of shit. You're not as good as you think. You should just go back to waiting tables. That's all you're going to fucking be. You're never going to be in the real estate full time. You're never going to do that shit. So this was end of July of last year. And it was our 2-year anniversary at my previous job, which is a restaurant food hall. I said, look, I'm going to go say hi to everybody. Maybe that'll lift up my spirits. I parked the car. I got out. I walked up to the door. I grabbed the handle. I looked inside. It has nothing to do with these people. So if you hear this story, it has nothing to do with you. I love all you. I looked inside. I was about to open the door, and I said, no. It's not your life anymore. You're not a restaurant employee anymore. You're going to go figure it the fuck out. You're a you're a real estate entrepreneur. And this shit, it didn't work. And you failed. And you lost money. But this is not your life anymore. And you belong here. I went to Costa Rica because it was already planned. And the day before I left for Costa Rica, I had a friend I haven't talked to in 3 years call me out of the blue, offer me a job, private equity and real estate. I don't know.
You don't have to know. You don't have to know. It's not about knowing. See, that's where so many of us go wrong. We think we have to know. And the truth is that the more we know, for some of us, the bigger the stumbling block, the bigger the obstacle it is, thinking that we know something, thinking that I know. And I remember the first time I said, man, I don't know anything. And I remember my sponsor at the time, he said, now we can get started.
I think you said that to me too.
The truth is, that's the truth, man. The minute I think I know some shit, right? Wow, prepare yourself for the hit because it's going to hurt, right? When I am open, when I recognize that I know what I know and I'm grateful for it. That's it. Like, I'm grateful for the experiences and the knowledge that I currently have. But if I rest on that, I am in trouble. Mm-hmm. And here's what happens. So many of us, I'm going to shift a little bit here. So many of us refuse because we're tainted, we're jaded, we've had a bad experience with spirituality, that we have walked away from it. Okay, I'll take it from here, God, whatever, if there is a God. And we're so angry, so bitter, so resentful at ourselves. But of course, we don't see it that way because we're too busy blaming everybody else and playing the victim. But we hold on to that bitterness and anger. And guess what we do? We push God out. We push spirituality out. And we all are meat suits. We all are just, we we've convinced ourselves that there isn't a spiritual spiritual connection within us, that we don't have a soul. We actually convince ourselves. And at some point you make such a dramatic role. And I remember talking to you about this too, which was like, you needed that experience with Kaizen to burn the boats. You needed the catalyst, because if you didn't burn the boats, there'd still be boats to return back to. And that was the burning boat moment that allowed you to recognize that you could do it, that you had it within you to make the changes in your life that you needed to make. But more importantly, when I hear a story where someone's walking towards something, right? They'd actually made it to the event, got out of the car, walked up the stairs, grabbed the handle, and probably right around when you grab the handle is when the voice came. And what you just said is funny, because as you were listening, I go, well, your higher self was talking to you, and you listened. And we all have that. I'm going to repeat that again. We all have intuition. That intuition is your higher self. You have a choice. That higher self knows a whole lot more than your meat suit will ever know. It's connected to thousands of years of history. Probably getting a little more woo-woo than most of you would.
Yeah, I was just thinking that.
Hold on. We might get a little woo-wooing, but I just want you to know that however you want to look at that, there was a voice that came. There was a voice that came that said, no, this is not your life anymore. We have made a decision. You have made a decision. Turn around and get back into your new life.
Don't seek the comfortness of where you've been forever, and really accept it. And it's the truth, man. I mean, it's so powerful. And I do want to get woo woo for a minute, because I don't give a shit. It's my podcast.
Good.
So,
good.
It's funny. My dad said to me, and it's always stuck with me. He said, the reason I didn't share what I needed to share with you for 20 years, because you weren't in this place to accept it.
There you go.
And the universe only gives you what you need when you're ready and available. I'll tell you a story, because he won't tell you. I'll tell you a story. I don't care, Rob. I'm telling the story. Get over it. Your life is going to be on blast. So Rob has money. That's not the issue, but it's in stocks and all that stuff, right? And he hasn't been working. He's getting paid a little bit, but nothing crazy. Okay. And he started coaching with you. This is a true story. He tells me this 2 days ago. I still can't believe it.
You sure you want to tell this story?
Yeah, I don't give a fuck. He's my friend. I've known him for 20 years. He can get over it. It's not a big deal.
Right.
It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Right. He's got plenty of money. That's not the concern. It's more about the context of the story. So he says, listen, I don't know if I can afford to continue coaching with Omar, but I will this is what he tells me, I will when my job starts back up and I'm getting steady paycheck. So he's made this decision like, hey, I'm going to pay for the coaching. Thank you. This has been great. I'm on the path, but I don't, I'm going to get back to it. He does a webinar for the clients at his work. And, he gets a phone call from a guy that he hasn't seen in a while that he services. Rob builds wine rooms for clients. And the guy says, I'm going to go ahead and pay you for 2021.
He's going to pay you for what?
He's going to pay him for the next year already. Already sent him a check.
For the entire year?
For the entire year. And Rob goes, no, you're not. And he goes, yes, you are, because you've taken care of my family. I care about you. And the reason I'm telling this story is because Rob has walked in this path of self-development, whatever the fuck you want to call it. The world, the universe has opened and guided him to be able to continue this path. And I'm like, literally, I was like, I had to like stop the car because like he's starting to see, I'm getting woo-woo, he's starting to see what me and you see, what me and you and Brad Johnson and Matty A, my coach, and all, like when you're available and you've taken the expectations and you don't know where your life's going to go, the world opens up just the way it was meant to the whole life.
That is a beautiful story and such a testament to letting go and allowing. Letting go and allowing.
And we're so quick. It's what we're born to do, to fight it all. We're the best. Americans are the best fighters ever, but we're fighting ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. You're fighting to hold on to shit you don't even want. Like, I want to repeat that. You're fighting for shit you don't even want. So many of you refuse to let go of what you want in order to allow the things that you deserve to come in.
Yeah. And you know what I'm thinking about in this conversation? I'm just going to document it because I'm so happy right now. I have put restraints on maybe things I'll talk about on my podcast, or like guests I want to bring on, but maybe I don't feel like I can yet. And through this conversation, I'm realizing I don't give a shit. It's my shit. Take it how you want it. So what I'm going to do, we're going to get real woo-woo on a podcast. I'm going to bring you on and Rick Alexander on, and we're going to talk about what we've done. We don't have enough time to go into the whole story about plant medicine and stuff like that. But I firmly believe that, I know you do too, if you're in a place willing to accept it, you know, it can really open an entire world for you that you don't even know exist. And I think that there's a lot of people walking around with fake goals, fake dreams, and it's not until you do the personal work, the deep work, finding out what your why is. You know, if your why is $75,000 a year and your boss doesn't bother you and you're happy as fuck, then take it. Like, if your why is like mine and you want like 7 businesses, that's on me. It's not, why should I be angry at anybody else? But because that's what I want. But it took me 38 years to not seek validation from others on what I'm doing. And it's not until you can truly set yourself free can you truly be yourself. I mean, it's the truth, because you're setting expectations on, you're showing up to a room, because I'm the guy that does that. You're showing up to the room on who you think they want you to be. And when you get around people that are comfortable in their own skin, they don't need you to be anything.
Amen. Amen. So let's close this thing up.
Yep.
What the listeners want to know, since this is your story, is what was the culmination ultimately that allowed you to come up with the name Construct Your Life? You know, the concept for the podcast, it was
something that Mark Crandall said to me. You know, he said, Austin, you know, I see you. He's like, you're smart. You know, you got your shit together. You're going to do good stuff. He said, but I feel like you're chasing the dollar. I feel like you think you're going to make $100,000 and you're going to be happy. It's not going to happen until you do the work. And he said, until you start building a lifestyle and not a bank account, you'll never be happy. And so what I implore, the reason I started the podcast, the reason it sits with me, the reason I do it, is I'm trying to bring on people that have maybe lost it, maybe didn't, maybe they're just great at what they do. But I'm trying to bring this on to tell you that there's a life out there that you've always dreamed of, that you've wanted, and nothing's holding you back. The only person holding you back is yourself. So what I'm hoping is that, you know, regardless if that's alcohol, work, you work for an asshole boss, whatever that is, I just want you to construct your life that makes you happy. And the most important thing I can impart, and I'll leave you with, is that doesn't involve anybody else's fucking opinion. It's not until you wake up and realize that your mom, your brother, your wife, your sister, your boss, it doesn't fucking matter. And I said it really loud that time so you understand. Because look, there's a lot of people that look at my life and go, I don't understand. How can you do these businesses and do the podcast and everything? How can you train for Ironman? Because it worked for me. Like, and that's it. And it wasn't until I realized that I truly don't give a shit about what people think. And don't get me wrong, I want to make people happy. I want to impact people. I want to help them. But it's not until you truly, I give you, Brad Johnson freaks me out with this stuff. He sent me a picture. You ready for this? I didn't even tell you this. He said, I'm about to go deep. I'll talk to you later. You ready for the picture? A tree.
Let me see.
A tree, I'll send it to you. A tree on Hawaii with the sun going down with a 10-foot mirror on the tree. So he's going to sit there. He's going to sit there and meditate and stare at himself for like 30 minutes.
Oh, wow. Wow. I never even thought about doing something like that. You know what? We say that all the time. I see you, and it's so important that other people see us. But do I see me?
Do you see yourself? I don't think we do. I don't think we do. For a couple
30
clients,
minutes?
For a couple clients, I've done 2 minutes staring them in the eyes, no words, and they start crying within 20 seconds. So are you truly seeing yourself? So my wish is that from this podcast, that you truly start seeing yourself, that you start doing the work. And it doesn't happen overnight, guys. I heard the greatest quote ever. I love it so much. I'm going to use it every day. Get married to the process and get divorced from the fucking results.
Ooh, man. It took you 37 years to get there. It took me 49 years. It took me 49 years and some special medicine to be able to release myself, from that need for results, to focus on results, and ultimately get married to the process. Because the process is all there is. The process is the journey.
Yeah.
And the journey never ends.
No, there's no Rick Alexander, best quote ever. Austin, we could spend another hour on the phone. There's nowhere to get.
Yeah.
He said, until you realize that, we are just wasting time, bro. God love that man. Dude, I thank you so much. We'll save the plant medicine shit for the next interview.
Yeah, that'll be much later.
Much later. I just had my own experience 2 weeks ago. I don't even care. It was amazing. I love it. I can't wait to do it again. So, dude, thank you so much. I cried like in the first 5 minutes. I thought I was going to be like longer than that. Dude, I wouldn't want to have anybody else to do this. I know that a lot of people are going to get an impact. So share it, review it, whatever the hell y'all do. I don't even care if you share it. Just take it for yourself. Take it for yourself. Listening to it. I know that I'm sending this to 5 friends the moment we get done with this, so they can, take this with them. And I just really thank you so much.
I love you, brother.
Love you, bud.
Thank you for listening to Construct Your Life with Austin Linney. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to rate, review, subscribe, and pay it forward by sharing with a friend. Most importantly, take this opportunity to start constructing your life by taking immediate action on what you learned. For show notes, resources, and more information on one-on-one coaching with Austin, visit constructyourlifepodcast.com.